It's June, and that's the time of year for sun and blue skies in North Carolina. So what's with all the rain? Well, at least I get a ray of sunshine from $5 or more supporters asking me questions during the month of May. If you'd like to participate by asking a question this month for me to answer at the start of July, links are below. No one asked anything on Patreon, so we'll be over on Subscribestar, where Dickin Myanus asks, how is it to own and drive an EV? I absolutely love my Tesla. I got a 2020 Model 3, and if that's how good they were 6 years ago, I can only imagine how good they are now. Really, I haven't been this excited about driving a car since I was a teenager. And having to drive my wife's car briefly made me realize that I never want to go back to gas vehicles. Driving is so easy, and that matters a lot when you have chronic pain and don't have full range of motion. The Tesla is so easy to drive, from the light steering to one-pedal driving. Not having to constantly move your foot to the brake makes all the difference. Unless, of course, you're on a road where you can just turn on autopilot. I haven't tried FSD yet, but even without it, it's a fantastic car in so many ways. And it's also cheaper. I can charge at night when rates are lowest, just 5 cents per kilowatt hour. In order to drive my Honda that cheaply, gas prices would have to be 38 cents a gallon. Not counting oil changes and other things I don't have to do anymore. The only problem is that the area of North Carolina where I live is a charging station dead zone. I mean, there's nothing. No Tesla superchargers, no charge point stations, no Electrify America. For daily driving, that doesn't matter since I charge at home. But if you want to take a longer trip anywhere in this area, it's just not going to work. You can drive the whole 120 miles from Concord to Chimney Rock without a single charging station. Unless you want to detour all the way north to Hickory for the single charging station there, or down to Gastonia. And even those stations are the only ones before you hit that long area from Wilkesboro through Mount Airy or down south into Gaffney. There's just nothing. Seriously, there aren't even any chargers at the airport. What's up with that? You'd think a major hub and international airport would rate a full charging station, which is made all the more ridiculous by the sheer number of Teslas you see on the road. I mean, they're just all over the place. I get that everybody is charging at home, but you'd think the EV adoption would mean charging stations being built. We have a few oases of charging in Charlotte, Asheville, Statesville, and Spartanburg, and after that you're on your own. Made worse by the hilly terrain. Going up and down hills kills range faster than the EPA tells you, and winding roads means less regen. EVs have been growing like gangbusters in North Carolina, with registrations increasing 50% year over year, and that's way dominated by Tesla. Drive around Huntersville, Lowesville, Stanley, Denver, Newton, Conover, Mooresville, Hickory, Belmont, and Gastonia, and sometimes it seems like every 10th car is a Tesla. It's not a chicken and egg issue, not enough EVs to justify chargers, and not enough chargers to justify EVs. The EVs are there! And we have major highway corridors like NC-16 and US 321, as well as many tourism locations from Latta Plantation to Lake Lure and Chimney Rock. So where are all the chargers? When they do show you a charger on a map, it's usually something like a dealership or a hotel that's just level 2 charging. I don't know the reason why, but I'd be willing to bet half the reason is these crappy electrical co-ops we have. So people may just be balking at what it would do to the energy infrastructure. I think it's just another symptom of the infrastructure not keeping up. The NC-73 corridor is extremely well traveled and needs to be widened, but they keep putting that off. Business 16 is growing and growing, but they won't let them put in businesses such as movie theaters, so whenever people want something to do, they cram down 73 to go to Birkdale. We've got the EVs. We've got the economy. We've got the demand. We just need government to stop treating our area of the state like a red-headed stepchild. Betcha if any important state politicians lived around these parts, things would be different. Alright, enough ranting. Let's look at the question asked by FunwithFacts. What are your thoughts on the famous case Katko v. Briney? Yeah, that was the one where the homeowner set up a spring-loaded shotgun to go off if someone broke into the house. That happened, and so the burglar sued them! You can sympathize with the Brineys. They had been repeatedly broken into, with the police responding each time with a shrug. When Marvin Katko invaded the home, the shotgun went off and injured his leg. He sued, and the court ruled in his favor, despite the fact that he was a trespasser and thief. It went up to the Iowa Supreme Court, who laid down the principle that you can use reasonable force to protect property, but you can't use deadly force without a serious threat to life or serious bodily injury. Basically, according to them, the entire premise behind the movie Home Alone is invalid. Although it's only precedent in Iowa, other states have taken judicial notice of it and consider it a persuasive authority. Note that in many states, such as Castle Doctrine and Stand Your Ground states, it becomes a different matter when people are actually home. There, the intruder poses a threat to people rather than merely to property. The actual reasoning behind Katko is really silly in my opinion, because if you break into someone's house, you have no idea what to expect. What if they have floorboards that are up because of repairs? What if they get shocked by faulty electrics? A home invader should have no reasonable expectation of safety, or anything really. However, courts have also recognized an additional principle to booby-trapping one's property. Not everyone who comes in is a home invader. There are firefighters, or a lost child could wander in, or someone else might have a legitimate reason to enter the home. It's actually a much stronger argument when you consider the indiscriminate nature of a booby trap. Weapons must be able to be pointed against aggressors. And I mean more specifically than a front toward enemy label. Anything that doesn't discriminate in that way is potentially a major NAP violation. And finally, Hoploo asks, how much of AI getting off on the wrong foot do you think can be attributed to the post-COVID bubble and or the possible demand by governments for uses in military and surveillance? I could be wrong, but the price hike of the computer parts market last year looks to me like an almost comical example of the Australian business cycle's ability to distort production chains. The thing is, that sort of price hike happens all the time. Memory is a particular culprit. Basically, there are too few chip fab factories, and they all run basically at full tilt, so they're particularly vulnerable to sudden demand increases or supply shocks. It's another case of the infrastructure needing to grow with demand, like I talked about in my answer to the first question. Just look at the power requirements. Data centers are making their own solar, hydrogen, or even nuclear power plants to power themselves because government has done such a crappy job of maintaining the power grid and bringing new forms of power online. Microsoft's $80 billion Azure backlog isn't a matter of technology or chips or even demand. It's electricity and permits. I don't think COVID had much to do with it beyond the general supply shock it had on everything. I don't think it's a bubble the way the housing bubble was. Maybe more like the dot-com bubble, a real product with real lasting benefit, but way too much cheap credit being put into it. But even then, we're just not seeing the same bubbly nature. AI has amazing productivity gains, but that isn't fully translating to revenue growth. That could be a side effect of inflation, but the reason doesn't matter when you're a business trying to make money. The AI innovations that deeply transform products really seem to keep things in a holding pattern, which means that without AI, we'd be in an even deeper mess than we're in. Computers have made products cheaper and more efficient since their inception. Every single industry was improved by it. But government either used that as an opportunity to wage higher inflation taxes, or they were doing that anyway and computers saved us from hyperinflation. Same thing with the internet. The amazing productivity gains were used as an excuse to pump cheap credit into the market so the government, not us, would reap the benefits. But at the same time, there are still revenues being made, and they are real, and every indication is that they are lasting. Proven business models are driving and even accelerating AI adoption, and moreover, unlike a bubble, these companies are generating actual cash. So while it's bubble-like in a lot of ways, don't think of it as the dot bomb. It'll be more like the explosive fiber build-out. Yes, most of the fiber lay dark for years, but now it's getting used, and those who rode it out are now reaping the rewards. And also, don't let the media blind you into thinking that the only players in AI are big tech companies like Google, Meta, and Anthropic. Keep in mind everything the little guy is now able to do, thanks to open source models and the contributions made by normal everyday people in the fine-tunings and other innovations they put up to Hugging Face and Civet AI every single day. The memory and chip fab is the biggest single point of failure, and markets need to be freed so that they can expand and new entries to the market can participate fully. The main problem, though, is government, who needs to stop trying to control everything, use any progress as an excuse for inflation, and turn everything to the control of the surveillance state. Well, that's it for another month, so thank you so very much for watching. Comments for the comment god, shares for the share throne. Please hit like, subscribe, and the bell, and check out other videos on my channel and like and share them as well. And please go to donate.bogosity.tv for all sorts of ways to support, including PayPal, Venmo, Cash App, cryptocurrency, or become a regular supporter at Patreon, Subscribestar, or Discord to get these videos early and ad-free and participate in live streams and AMAs like this one. Thanks again, and until next time, stay strong and be free.